We hear about the Medicaid cuts backfiring on Republicans in the next election, but that means there will be a free and fair election, which is not a guarantee nowadays. We have a president who pardoned people who staged an insurrection to overthrow an election, attacking police, and who fomented it, and who pushed false voter fraud claims. One of the lines against that held in 2020 was election workers and courts not succumbing to pressure, threats of violence, or even an outgoing president with all of his assembled powers, which, when you think about it, is really something. Fast forward to today, and that individual, Donald Trump, now in office, has a Justice Department that is exploring ways to charge election officials, state or local, if the feds under Trump determine that they want to. They have excuses about computer systems and other sourcing about this, but let's remember, we're talking about the people who lost the election and wanted to have the alternate outcome, meaning steal it. So their references to computers or anything else can't be taken that seriously. And the move is not based on new evidence, data, or legal authority, the reporting notes, but the actually unsubstantiated argument that elections are easy to prey on with voter fraud or foreign manipulation. Again, this is a smokescreen. Everybody understands what's going on. If Trump and his allied Republican Party were to be on a path to losing or actually lose, there is evidence they want to abuse power to pull off what they failed to do in 2020, steal the result. This is an attempt to manipulate elections. And as always, the Orwellian propaganda is to hide behind terms like safe and secure or voter fraud when, again, we all lived through 2020. You can divide American politics between the people who understand the actual result of that election and the people who don't or won't. The Times reports that sources have referred to how lawyers are struggling to even find a criminal statute that would match Trump's demands. And this is a pattern, weaponizing different parts of the government and the DOJ to turn everything upside down, or the law enforcement agencies become a handmaiden to law breaking. Trump is also attacking one of these new Democrats who's been a rising star pretty quickly, New York City's Democratic nominee for mayor, Zohran Mamdani, threatening to arrest him if he obstructs ICE from arresting immigrants in the city. And there's been high-profile targeting of Democratic officials. Congresswoman McIver faces these criminal charges for that unusual kind of scuffle clash outside of an ICE facility where she says she was doing oversight as a member of Congress. And we've spoken with her and some of these other Democrats facing what many view, and legal experts say, is the abuse of prosecutorial powers against the opposition party. Do you view it as excessive force or an effort to intimidate the opposition party?
Look, personally, I think it was excessive, but that's the tone and approach that this administration has chosen to take.
They'll go to any extent, especially any extent of cruelty, to make an example. And I am that example.
This is clearly being driven by that desire to do what was said earlier, to hurt people, to embarrass people, to humiliate folks. And they'll go further than that if they can.
They'll go further than that, and they have these probes open. Some have fallen apart, charges dropped against Barack, as you see there. Others seem like a long-term effort to make noise without actually going through with it. James Comey in the middle has been a formidable figure. A lot of people in law enforcement would be disturbed by a fake case against him, but he's under a at least open probe for an Instagram post about seashells on the beach. It's a whole thing, a whole pile of nothing. And other individuals that you see on there are targeted. People said, what happens when we pass the line? Well, in some of those cases, we're past it. And now they're laundering and discussing plans to go after the election officials who last time stopped their effort to steal an election they lost.
Well, again, I think this is very much aligned with the efforts to weaponize not only the institutions of government, but the DOJ itself in the service of this administration. But I think this is about a bigger project, fueling distrust in democratic institutions. As you mentioned in the report, it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to find a statutory hook to do this, even if they did have a statutory hook that would allow them to indict individuals for not safeguarding elections appropriately. They don't really have the manpower right now in the Voting Rights Division to be able to do that. Lawyers have left in record numbers since this administration started. So what this really suggests is that This is about the public, about fueling distrust in our democratic institutions among the public, so that if in the midterms there is a massive Democratic victory, they can just say that this has been stolen, this is fake, just like they did on January 6th, 2021.
It's a different warpath, and by going forward on some, not all, but some cases, like the Congresswoman that we showed before we came to you, that's clearly going to affect people. Not everyone wants to spend several years in these kind of draining, expensive fights, and not every institution will stand by the people who do.
Well, that's a great point. These lawsuits likely will not work out in favor of the administration, but they are draining, they are resource consumptive, and more importantly, in this moment where the administration has cracked down on law firms, forced law firms into settling with it at the term that the president has used, it means that legal resources that are available to represent individuals pro bono have really dwindled. So this entire landscape has been changed at a time when the administration is also weaponizing the rule of law in important ways. So all of that, I think, has to be understood. This is all happening as part of a coherent project, not isolated episodes.
You've been providing your legal take on a recent Supreme Court ruling. Here's what the White House press secretary thinks about it.
Well, I think taking power away from these absolutely crazy radical left judges is a tremendous, this is such a big day.
No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation. Not one district court judge can think they're an emperor over this administration and his executive powers.
I should say the Attorney General and the President, not the press secretary, but both of them thrilled with a result that a while back you wouldn't have expected you'd ever get. What does it tell you that Donald Trump's extreme, some people call it maximalism, has slowly been embraced by the MAGA wing of the Supreme Court?
Well, again, it's really important to talk about this on the eve of the 4th of July. The framers of our Constitution did not understand the office of the executive to be one of unfettered authority. The president had powers, but it was also an institution that was going to be checked by two other institutions, the judiciary and Congress. Right now we know that Congress has pretty much abdicated the field in terms of being a meaningful check on this precedent. That has left the courts, and these lower federal court judges have been doing that. They've been issuing these injunctions. They're very narrow rulings. Many of them have been issued by judges that were appointed by Republican presidents and by this president himself.
What we're incensed is not a debate about policy. It's a coordinated power grab under the guise of law and enforcement and voter integrity. The Trump administration is not merely pushing legal boundaries, it's testing the very limits of democracy. From us threatening to prosecute election officials with credible legal basis to their position, the DOJ against political opponents. This is a continuation of Trump 2020 playbook, only now with more tools, fewer constraints, and a Supreme Court increasingly aligned with executive overreach. Is not about voter fraud. It's about lying and the groundwork to delegitimize any results they don't like in 2026 or 2028. The disturbing part is working. The GOG is reportedly struggling to find any legitimate statute to justify Trump's demands, yet investigations still move forward. Why? Because grading people into expensive, drawn-out legal battles are part of the strategy. This isn't about winning in court, it's about intimidation. The administration isn't stopping at court or election. It's threatening Democratic lawmakers with arrests for performing overseeing duties. It's praising Supreme Court decisions that spread district judges of their authority to check presidential power, and it is undermining trust is very institution that stand in its way. Meanwhile, legal resources for opposition voice, especially pro bono support, are shrinking. The goal is clear: isolate, house, and silence dissent. And what's most chilling, the propaganda is working. Under the banners of safe elections and law and order, Trump's allies are actively eroding the democratic framework. This is no longer about policy disagreements, it's about dismantling accountability itself. The question is whether Trump is breaking the law, is whether he is regulating the rules to make anything he does legal. That's the new standard, then America isn't facing a political crisis, it's facing a constitutional one.